So, let's talk about Diary of Wimpy Kid Logic Rules. The animated Diary of Wimpy Kid movie is one of those types of films that shouldn't really exist, but yet it does. And so does the sequel. I mean, I won't say the first film is bad or anything, it's just mediocre and it's just okay at best. Yes, and I have a feeling that the sequel is gonna end up the same way. But we'll find out here, even if it's only been like a year since the first film has came out. But I'll give it credit that the live action films did the same thing as well. So there's no harm, of course. Also, this is the last acting role of Ed Asner. A true man, he shall be missed. But anyway, back onto the film. Would this film rule like Rodrick, or is this film more wimpier than Greg himself? Well, so basically the story in this film is basically similar to like the live action film, but done in a completely different way. Like in a live action film, Greg and Rodrick was left at home just because they had to spend time together and hang and like bond together. But then Rodrick calls his friends and locks Greg and Riley inside the basement. But then they got out because of one thing happening with Susan and Rodrick, and then Rodrick so make sure we just all that stuff. If they had a party time and they had to clean up the house until they come back. In the animated film though, Susan and Frank that these two alone just because they have a so-called what was it called? Oh yeah, anniversary. Yeah. But then Greg and Rodrick actually just call the party and then just locks him up in there and in the basement, and so was Rowdy, who decided to appear there. But turns out Greg and Rowdy did not exactly escape. They actually took photos of the evidence of Rodrick actually having a party, which is pretty sus. But then next morning, they actually got a way to get out the door for just coincidence, I would say. Okay, so then Greg wakes Rodrick up, and yeah, you already get the point there. And he mostly has supposed to like threaten him to owe him. So I'll give out that the big problem with this movie is that the story doesn't add too much of it. It's basically like the first film where it does have some similarities to like the books and films, but doesn't really add much to it as well, like with the pool scene or any of like other stuff like that. Yeah, I mean it does have that one like the one with the women's bathroom and all that, but it's not really enough to do so. I mean, most of the film it kind of feels like a bit rushed and all that, especially like in one scene where they decide to like rickroll me just for coincidence. However, there's actually one thing that actually does get my attention during this film, is that with the other stuff. I mean, there are some jokes that actually are decently funny at times. I mean, not really, but it's actually decent enough. And there are some emotional scenes that actually do give me a teardrop. Okay, not really. They actually just come out of nowhere, but they are still powerful in itself. And there's another emotional scene, but I'll save that for later, people. I promise you, I will do it. Anywho, back on to the others and stuff. Like, I mean, sure, the first film was a bit mean-spirited, and the second film kind of feels like that way too, but it isn't really all that all the time. And yes, it may have some few elements gone missing, but this is a decent type of story you often find, especially when compared to like the first film, of course. As for the animation, it's mostly the same. But the difference between this and the first film is that the character animation is a lot more choppy this time and a lot cheaper, which kind of sucks to be fair. I mean, the lighting is a lot more better, and some of the character designs do say true, and that's okay. Everything's alright. There's not very much places that they go to, with the exception of Leisure Towers, which is basically like a little hotel for like old people, especially with Grandpa Hefty, which I said I will get to him later. Anywho, there's not much I can say about the animation. It's the same, not much, just Anywho, I mean, what else can you say about the film that just stays the same? As for the characters, there's not much I can say about them, but at least I can say they have improved from like the first one, since they have a lot more screen time this time. Especially with like Greg, where he's not actually still much of an asshole, but he's actually a lot more improvement, since he actually still threatens Roger with that so-called evidence he has. And at least he still knows so much about brotherhood and all that stuff. The same goes to Rodrick, where well, of course, he's actually being threatened by Greg with the whole evidence. He is still trying to learn how to be a good brother for him, even though they are still gonna have the battles, but they are still family. A bit like Fast and Furious 9. Oh no, that was like the entire franchise. What am I talking about? No, I mean for the other characters, they're not much. They have more screen time, but don't do much. Like Riley Jefferson being on like Greg's side and his best friend, Susan trying to get Greg and Rodrick to like bond together, and like Frank Hefty just trying to get his suspicions on like the evidence that Greg and Rodrick might have done, and also he wondering about Manny. Wait, who now? I've never heard of that kid before. Whoever he is, he deserves to get shot by a gun. And then there's Grandpa Hefty, which I told you people were going to get to him soon, and now we are now. Well, back onto Grandpa Hefty, I can honestly say that he's the best thing about this movie. Since he always talk about that backstory, well, he used to have two brothers, which is one of them is Frank Hefty, but then they kind of split up due to them just like arguing at each other and all that. And I actually do like that scene. It actually has so emotion into it. And I kind of find this Grandpa Hefty to have a lot more development than the one from the live action film, so I like that. Also, this is the last acting role of Ed Asner, and I'll give him that he did play the part well here, for obvious reasons. I also noticed that Susan Hefty's my quality actually kind of improved from the last film, where she doesn't sound she was recorded from like a shitty iPhone S.
Oh, Riley, you know what? Those glow sticks are a great idea. Let me see if I have any in the pantry.
I know that you and your brother don't always get along, but a weekend like this can help change that.
So in conclusion, the 2022 Wimpy, the animated Disney Plus version of Wimpy Kid Rodrick Rules is an okay at best film where it doesn't have much of a story to begin with, since it kind of feels rushed, and animation feels a bit cheap and not much developed characters. But you could say that story does have a nice message, and animation just stays the same, and the characters have slightly improved a bit, and with the mic qualities, and I do actually see that there was quite emotional scenes in this film, and there were some decent jokes too, but not too much, but still fun as it is. So in conclusion, I give it a 0 of average, and it's not bad, but could have been better. But I guess I don't really have to say that because the first film was average, so it's not surprised that this film would get to the same. But at least it's ominous. Next time on Kyle's Reviews is...
Oh, what a day, what a day.